model update for the GFS model. These are the heights. Excuse me, it says 78 hours. Okay, this is 0 hours. This is better. Um, so what we have now is we have a ridge in the central and western states and a trough in the eastern states. This has been the pattern for like most of this week. So we have colder than average conditions in the east. It's actually been the coldest it's been all season, really, for most places since like April, I'm pretty sure. Um, November like and December like temperatures for a lot of locations. And we have this ridge in the central states, although if you go back a couple of days, it was a ridge in western Canada, and that really assisted that cold air intrusion in the eastern US. This has led to mountainous snowfall for the first time this season, which is exciting as always. Um, I'm not sure about accumulations. I think the stuff has accumulated in northern New York in like the highest elevations, 3,000 plus feet, but it is exciting. Um, Now, in terms of the future, this trough will move on out. It tries to hang on. This is something that we've seen for many other cooldowns. It tries to hang on in the southeast, but it fails. Eventually, you get the opposite pattern, which is a trough in the west and a ridge in the east. Now, it's kind of weird because this is actually kind of delayed. So on Friday, it'll still be below normal for much of the east, especially the southeast, is what I've seen a lot of models saying. And might still be warm for a lot of the west, despite this trough and ridge, because this is a bit delayed. But you get this pretty significant ridge in the east. I think the warmest spots are actually going to be the central states. Uh, at this point, most of the west is still warm, except the Pacific Northwest. Will have a cool down, but the model I saw said that the west will be, for the most part, warm, except the Pacific Northwest, like Washington, Oregon, Idaho, might have a bit of a cool down. The east stays warm. We have in terms of other parts of the continent or whatever, we have a positive NAO, so below average heights over Greenland. That's not good, obviously, but I mean, it's whatever. We have a negative PNA, also not good, but it's whatever. So we have a ridge in Alaska. It's causing a bit of a trough in Western Canada, and a ridge in the east, and it's a hallmark of a negative PNA. Um, as we move into Tuesday, most of the U.S. at this point, besides again the Pacific Northwest, will probably be above average. Um, and then finally, as we go into not this weekend but next weekend, we get a cool down in the West. So I'm not surprised by that. If there was this massive ridge in Alaska, I'd be very surprised if we didn't get a cool down in the West and a ridge out east too. That's pretty good pattern for cool downs in the West. Um, that moves on out, and it kind of curves northeast, and we get this other cool down coming in. Initially, this is the major one. To be honest with you, this is probably the GFS being drunk. Just to forewarn you. So we get this ridge out in the border of like Alaska and Canada. I don't know how to call this region, like northwestern Canada, I would say. And initially it causes cold air in the western U.S., but eventually, as that ridge moves eastward, it kind of forces the trough to move eastward, and then we get this massive Arctic air outbreak, especially in like the my bad, like Illinois, Iowa, the Midwest would be, and the plains, the Midwest and the plains, northern plains would be especially hit by this storm. Not storm, Arctic blast, but also storm. There's a snowstorm with this. And yes, snowstorm on Halloween too, which would be pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie, but this probably won't verify. Again, probably the GFS being drunk. But we'll see. It did pretty good job on this Arctic air outbreak, not Arctic air, like cold air outbreak we're having right now. So this could verify, but this on Halloween would be pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. That will probably eventually move on out, or probably won't flip, but that's where it ends. It ends with an cold air diving into the eastern U.S. Another thing to note, strong blocking over Greenland, that's blocking high, strong negative NAO. The NAO has been negative for, I think, since like mid-September. It's projected to strengthen, but this would be a very juicy pattern if it was winter for cold and snow in the Northeast. Unfortunately, it's only October 31st, so even with this strong blocking over Greenland, it's unlikely we'd get any snow, but that is the kind of pattern you want to see. So that's the end of the heights. In terms of other places besides east, the west is probably warmer than normal. But I think the west will get a cool down, not this weekend, next weekend, and maybe late next week too. And the Pacific Northwest will stay cool or colder than normal anyway, into early next week. So that's the heights. In terms of the temperature anomaly, oh, that's the Arctic blast. So this is like 18 hours before, and this is our cool down, assisted by warmth in the west again. Moving into the east, far below normal temperatures. You can see Wednesday morning is projected to be as much as like at least as 10 to 15, even 20 degrees in some areas. Unfortunately, the urban centers are not as cold, which is unfortunate because I live in urban centers, so it's tough. But whatever, you gotta deal with it. Um. Anyway, that that hangs around a little bit, and then this warmth wants to kick it out, but the cold is kind of hanging on for dear life in the southeast, especially. You can see the farthest below normal temperatures are along the southeast, and it hangs on even further in the southeast. Eventually, the warmth succeeds and kicks it out, and it's basically gone for good for the most part, but you still have this cold lingering on. I mean, this is pretty impressive stuff, I'm not gonna lie. But eventually, that warmth succeeds, and you get this warm uh, period in the east. So you have cold hanging on the southeast. It's still warm up in the plains, up into the Midwest. It's about normal in the Northeast. Mid-Atlantic's about normal, maybe slightly below normal. Southeast pretty far below normal, and eventually that warmth eventually kicks that colder out. In terms of what's happening on the west, because I kind of ignored the west, I'm not gonna lie, because I was focusing on the east. But in terms of what's happening on the west, we do get that cool down. Um, this Friday. I believe the GFS wasn't. I believe the Euro wasn't showing this. Um, and you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this verified. Although, um, I honestly would trust the Euro more, but we'll have to see. Um, yeah, we get this cool down in the west, and then we get warm up in the west, warm up in the east. It's mostly warmer than average, except for the Pacific Northwest, which is slightly below average, and that pattern kind of continues for a while actually until we get cold further south in the west. But it's much warmer than average, and then finally we get I dare to say this might be an Arctic blast, just based on the anomalies and where it's coming from northwestern Canada, and originally that's more of a western cool down. Yeah, it's much warmer on the eastern seaboard. It's like a La Nina cold, I'm not gonna lie, like with the anomalies. But yeah, that moves eastward and southward, and like look how far this is going. These anomalies like there's like 20, 25 degrees in southern Texas. This would be pretty wild. This line is crazy. I won't lie. If I show the temperatures, that is a wild temperature line. That is absolutely crazy. I don't know how accurate that is. It probably isn't that sharp, although I don't really know. It could be, but that is pretty insane. Um, in terms of the temperatures. So that tries to move eastward. Will probably weaken a little bit, but we'll see. But these are like I think there's some 30-degree below normals here embedded. So you know, interesting would be a very cold Halloween. Would be probably one of the coldest, especially in the Midwest, in a while. Um, and yeah, I don't think this is gonna verify. I won't lie, but if it does, I'd be super happy. Even though I don't live in any of these areas, because I like cold, I like snow. So I'd be super happy this verified. Although I definitely am not banking on it. But yeah, it's a GFS, so you can't really trust it. It does this stuff a lot. I won't lie. Anyway, for the precipitation, it's like the actual surface precipitation. This is what we have. So excuse me, it's like bad. I don't know. The chocolate tidbits didn't load, but whatever. We'll deal with it. Um, Today we had our first snowfall in the Appalachian Mountains. I believe, unfortunately, areas affected by Helene got snowfall. Although I'm not sure anything accumulated. I think the bigger concern for areas affected by Helene is the cold and the fact that they'll likely have a freeze this morning and maybe next morning too. So I think that's actually the bigger concern. The snowfall shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's a dusting at most, but really any snowfall at all can really impact those areas. So that's kind of sad to see, but We did get our first snowfall for many of the Appalachians, southern Appalachians, um, in West Virginia. I think they're going to get dusting to maybe 2 inches on grassy surfaces in West Virginia Appalachians, and like not the peak of the mountains. The peaks, I think they're seeing accumulations. Last I checked, but we did see accumulations in northern New York, I believe, in Vermont and New Hampshire today. Um, and I think that was like 3 inches or something. I don't know how accurate the snow totals are because I've seen a lot of different statistics, but I think many areas got like 3 inches above 3,000 feet. I think some got like 6 inches. But anyway, whatever the totals are, it's still exciting. We do have some lake effect showers and snow showers depending on where you are. That's gonna fizzle out, and it should be dry Thursday morning. It should be any snow Thursday morning. Um, One thing to note that's interesting is we have the system 1003, 1033. I can't even read it to be honest. This blocked, but it's offshore, and that could have been a pretty significant storm. If that was a significant storm, I'll go to the temperatures real quick. Uh, there could have been snow along, say, I-81, for example. That could be a road. It's probably like, I'll go to the northeast. Um, it's like 33 along parts of I-81. So if this was more on shore, this could have brought snow further east. Not to the coastal cities, not to DC, not to Baltimore, Philly, New York City, Boston. They wouldn't have gotten snow, but places not in the full-on Appalachian Mountains theoretically could have gotten snow, although, you know, it's a hypothetical. It's obviously not going to happen. For a while, this was shown as closer to being onshore, but it's not. Um, to be honest, uh, it's interesting that showing it, although it's not like a full blown missed opportunity. It's not like you have a full on, freezing temperatures all up and down the coast, and if this were to be on shore, it'd be a full on snowstorm. So I'm not that disappointed to be honest, but it is interesting that it's showing it to be just offshore. So that does it for the GFS model. This is the European model. I'm doing the temperature anomaly because there's no point in doing the heights on both of them, and the European is horrible with the precipitation. It doesn't show snow, and we're going to be that time of year again where showing snow is important. If this was summer, if this was July, I wouldn't care. But it's the winter. It's not the winter time. It's the fall time. Anyway, the first couple of days are basically seeing as Arctic air outbreak in the east. The cold still hangs on. It's less cold in the west. It's cold in Arizona, but it's warmer than the Pacific Northwest and the Northwest California. I totally botched the heights, by the way. I interpreted them wrong, but it's okay. It's okay. For this, I didn't think there was a cool down in the west because I think I checked a different model run. I messed that up, but it's okay. Anyway, we get this cool down like the Four Corner states, Nevada. That cold still tries to hang on. It's both model runs in the southeast, especially. It finally gets kicked out by the warmth. We have cool down in the Pacific Northwest, warm up in the southeast and south central states into the Ohio Valley. It's warm really across the entire U.S., but that's the uh, most area of warmth. And that's where we end off on the European, really. That's just another recap of the temperature anomalies. So, you know, European similar to GFS in many ways. There's not too much disagreement. Obviously, the GFS goes further out, so it'd be interesting to see if the European was also showing that Arctic blast that the GFS was showing on Halloween. So that would be interesting. Um, by the way, after this, I'll show snow totals on the GFS because they're very interesting, if I do say so myself. So this is HWRF model. I picked two random models to be honest with you because there's a lot of hurricane models. I only really wanted to go over two. This one shows it developing into a tropical storm, or maybe that's a depression. I can't convert winds to knots. Although I'm pretty sure that's a tropical storm, a weak tropical storm. And it kind of doesn't really do anything. I believe it says a 50% chance of developing. I'm not sure what islands those are. I'm not even sure if it hits that. I believe this is a 50% chance of developing I wouldn't be surprised if it develops, to be honest with you, but this doesn't really have a lot of risk of hitting the United States and doesn't really have any risk at all of becoming a major hurricane. So, although I think I saw like a tweet today saying that there was one model that I don't have on Tropical Tidbits saying it would become a Cat 5, which is obviously wild. It's drunk, but it's okay. Um, that's the HWRF, a weaker solution, I would say, and the HAFSA shows a slightly stronger solution. We get to what I believe, unless I'm mistaken, hold on, is a Loman Cat 1, although don't quote me on that. I believe it's a Loman Cat 1, although I can't convert knots to miles. I'm horrible at it, and then it kind of just like does its thing in the Gulf or the Caribbean. Not really sure which was which. Um, but yeah, so development of this system is definitely possible. HFSA, I honestly think might be the max potential for this system. I don't see this becoming higher than Cat 1. I think the previous model run had this thing at Cat 2, but I don't think that's possible, to be honest with you. And it might hit Puerto Rico. I don't know any of these. I think this is Puerto Rico, so it could bring impacts to Puerto Rico. It's close to Puerto Rico. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this developed, but I don't think this thing has much potential, to be honest with you. So that's the hurricane, and then in terms of the GFS snow potential, I don't want that. When I say that it's kind of drunk, this is what I'm talking about. This is almost certainly not going to verify. I mean, this would be incredible. I would love this, obviously, even though I'm not getting any snow. But like 19 inches in October in southern Iowa, and I believe that's like 3 or 4 inches in Chicago would be insane. Snow in like North Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas. Even if this is just dusting, even if most of this doesn't accumulate, it'd still be insane. And this would be pretty early, or maybe I'm coping because my area doesn't see snow until like mid-December. I can't tell, but I'm pretty sure this would be pretty insane. And I don't think these whites are no snow. I think it's like glitched out or something because there's no way there's a random area in North Dakota that's getting no snow. That'd be horrible for them. I would feel bad for them. So I think that's a glitch. But anyway, also this area in West Virginia is not getting zero snow unless it's like a valley. But yeah, I think this white area is a glitch. But yeah, this would be insane. Another thing, this would probably, if it stayed on the ground long enough, if we had a lot of cold air in place, this would affect election day. Obviously, I don't think that the government's controlling the weather. That's idiotic. But it is something to know, especially if we lost on like Michigan and Wisconsin, which are like swing states. So yeah, that would be interesting dynamic. I don't know the last time I've had a major event on election day. I haven't really followed that. This is pretty sure I followed either, to be honest with you. So that'd be interesting. Um, you know, the GFS is probably drunk, but we'll see. It might not be. Hopefully, it isn't. Hopefully, this snow can move east closer to I-95. That'd be nice of the weather gods. But yeah. All right. See ya.